Hey everybody, this is Father Shane, and we're going to talk about the spiritual life. One of my favorite things about saints is that not all of them were really holy at the beginning. Like they weren't necessarily close to God. Allow me to introduce you to Venerable Matt Talbot. Insert photo here. Matt Talbot was from Dublin. He was born in the 1800s, but he died less than 100 years ago, so he was kind of a modern saint. We actually have pictures of him. And Matt Talbot was definitely not close to God when he was a young fella. In fact, he really struggled. He struggled with an addiction. He struggled with alcoholism in a big way. He was a terrible and incurable alcoholic by the time he was 13 years old only. He had dropped out of school. He had taken up work, but he spent every money that he could possibly make on drink. In fact, he was so desperate for drink sometimes that he would borrow off of friends. He would actually steal, and he actually pawned his own shoes in order just to get money, just to feed his addiction. Matt had a huge kind of change that happened in his life when he was 28 years old. So he spent 15 years really making his family's life a misery. But when he was 28 years old, big change happened in his life. So Matt was, as he often was, penniless. He had no money. And he was banking on his friends helping him out. So he went to a pub, and he knew his friends were going to come. And his friends, sure enough, came, but they walked right by him. And Matt was humiliated. Matt went home, and he talked to his mother, and she was surprised to see him sober. And he said, "That's it." He said, I'm giving drink up. Matt had kind of faced the reality that drink had like a grip on him, and that he needed to change if he was going to live any sort of a life at all. So Matt's life teaches us an awful lot, right? Because all of us have things that we need to change in our life. All of us need to have those moments where we have big things that we need to change. So for some people, it's like things like drink that we need to give up. But it's not only that. Maybe for other people, it's drugs, or it can be the internet, our phones, it can be pornography. It can be all sorts of different things that just have an unhealthy place in our life and has a kind of a grip on us. Sometimes we need to face that, and we need to change. We need to give those things up. Or maybe it's something else that needs to change in our lives. Matt can teach us a couple things, 3 things. The first thing that Matt's life can teach us is Matt needed to change his group of friends. Matt's friends weren't real friends, as that kind of story illustrates for us. Matt's friends were a part of the problem, actually. Sometimes when we're trying to make a good change in our lives and our friends are not helpful, in fact, sometimes they can be holding us back, we need to get a new group of friends that are actually going to support us as we make good and better decisions in our life. The second thing that Matt's life can teach us is about putting new habits or making new habits to replace the things that are destructive. So for Matt, every day after work, he went to the pub. So he needed to find something to replace that. So what Matt did was he joined groups that had nothing to do with drinking, kind of these different social groups. And he also started to go more and more to church. That became a bigger and bigger part of his life. When we make a big change in our lives and we replace something that's unhealthy and destructive, one thing that you'll find helpful is that we find something else, so that when we get bored, we don't go running right away back to whatever it is that we've stepped away from. The third and the last thing that we can learn from Matt Talbot's life is that we need God. There was no way Matt was going to get off alcohol if he didn't have God. He turned to God in a big way. He kind of acknowledged that he needed his help, and he began a life of committed prayer. That teaches us an awful lot about how we can make a positive change in our lives. Number 1, look at our group of friends, and if we need to change it, change it. Number 2 is build new habits in our lives that are helpful. And third is to acknowledge that we need God and to start a committed life of prayer to help us to make that change that's going to make us more the people we want to be and more the people that God wants us to be as well. Remember, it's not just Matt Talbot, it's you as well. God made you to be a saint. To be a saint is the only way that we're going to be happy. And being a saint means being close to God and living excellently. with God's help, you can do it. God bless you guys.